So when the impression comes from the office, we wash it well, the technician washes it well, saliva, blood, whatever. And now it's disinfected. And all undercuts are cut. Now it's dried. This applies to all impressions. This is trimming the undercuts. All that is undercut is to be trimmed like this, 45-degree angle. Those are zones that are not of interest for us. We have to be careful not to touch the preparations and the margins that have been captured in the impression. So the impression has to be disinfected and well dried. We can use a debabbilizer that is sprayed upon, and now it's ready to receive the plaster to be poured in the impression. So we put the ball on the scale. It shows 0. Yeah, so we calibrate it to 0 with the ball on. And now we need 100 grams of plaster. This is how the plaster is correctly measured and poured in the impression. This is a very, very precise way to do it. It's a very, very skilled dental technician and precise type of working. So it's very important to respect the indications of the producer. So 100 grams of powder. So you need 20 milliliters of water. Ideally, it would be distilled water. So we can measure the quantity, 20 milliliters. It's hand mixed to start with until the liquid fills the powder. And now we go to the vacuum mixer. We start the vacuum first. So the vacuum is formed, and then we press the mixing device. We press the mixing process. We start the mixing device, and it's gonna work for 30 seconds. So now we place everything on the vibrating table. So we start from one point and we watch it carefully to have the plaster filling all the details. Slowly, slowly, little quantities of plaster, small quantities. So now you see that the vibration stopped. You don't vibrate it up to the top. The second thing is that we will use the Pindex system, so we don't need the base of a model. We only need the arch itself. So that's where we shall stop. This is a 4th grade plaster, class 4 plaster. This means that it is hard enough to withstand the forces while working on it and to prevent the chipping of the margins. This is the model of a maxillary of the upper arch. The technician is always using his left hand, his or her left hand, always. Can't do it otherwise. So you see the technician is avoiding placing plaster on the palate of the model. Now we turn the tray. We take care there to the closure to have enough plaster. So we model the plaster as much as we can in order to avoid trimming it in the solid state afterwards. The surface that you're seeing there, the red surface, is actually, or the orange, is wax, simply wax. As we said on the palette, we don't need plaster. And now we have to wait 45 minutes. Once 45 minutes have passed, we unmold the model from the impression. So this is how we fix our hands, and slowly we remove it. So now we have to trim it. There's a device called a trimmer, but we need to have the model wet. There are also dry trimmers, but they are more expensive and you need suction. Here you just need to throw everything in the sink. It's easier and cheaper. Yeah, dry trimming is in order to avoid modifying the dimensions of the model because of water absorption. This is for very skilled and advanced technicians. Most of the technicians, they do like this. And yes, there is a discussion whether this is really important, dry trimming or not. So the trimming takes place, and we have to be very careful not to touch the teeth. So we just trim the margins. And now we have to bin an upper model. I need to have it planned. And this is a special device that has been invented by this technician. She is not alive anymore. She was extremely intelligent and skilled. So now I go in those 3 points that apparently are fixed throughout the life. They never modify, they never change. The whole bone is changing, resorbing, but not those 3 points. So now I fix this on this horizontal plan finder device, right? And I put the pin here, because all of these 3 points, they have to be in the same plan. And this is the very, very horizontal plan of the patient, right? And now there is a pencil there, it can be fixed at a height of our choice. Again, this has been invented by this technician, Alina Moldovan, extremely intelligent and skilled technician. And she's now drawing the line, actually materializing the plan, right? This is horizontal. We don't need more plaster. There's no need for more plaster. And now all this excess will be trimmed. But we know where to stop trimming. We have the drawing, we have the line there, right? So we know exactly what we're doing. We are at the line now. So now we can reduce a little bit from the margins, keep on reducing the margins, but paying very much attention not to touch the teeth themselves. There are various ways to trim the model, but this is the way to trim it when you want to work on it. For orthodontics, for storing purposes of diagnostic casts, the trimming may be different. We try to make it symmetrical now and round and small margins. Yes, so this is for the working model. We don't need excess behind the tuberosities. There's no need for them. And now we have to trim actually the palate from the model. We'll use the micromotor to do this. There is a special vertical trimmer, but we don't have it here. Most of the technicians, they do it with a micromotor, as you see in the pictures, in the video now. But of course we need suction for that. You see all the powder goes and is suctioned. There's a danger for dental technicians to breathe powders, and you imagine if they do this every day, many times every day, then their lungs will be completely clogged. So suction for dental technician is extremely important. This surface should be not more than 1.5 centimeters, something like that, 15 millimeters. And this surface has to be slightly tilted to avoid retention when we will fix this in the second plaster that will be the positioning plaster. We'll see that in the video. All that is removable, that will be removable abutment, has to be easily placed on and off the base, right? The plaster base, which has not been poured yet. So we prepare this model for putting it on the plaster base. That's the whole idea of the Pindex, right? Because we want to have removable abutments, removable dies actually. Abutment is the name for what we have in the mouth, yeah, the prepared teeth. And the same on the model is called a die. Abutments in the mouth and dies on the model. Yeah, so dies are the representation, the plaster representation of the milled abutments. So if we trim too much, it can become fragile. We don't want that to happen. So now our model is prepared for the second phase. Once this surface is very well polished, well, not as much polished, but softly prepared. And those are some retentions that are done in order to make sure that this will be extremely well fixed on the base.